The Green Bay Packers are all of a sudden pretty banged up, but this is exactly what this team was built to weather.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how, thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bet now. It was a tough day at practice yesterday for the Green Bay Packers as yet more key players exited with injury. Romeo Doubs goes down and stays down, able to walk off under his own power. Lucas Van Ness goes down. He's having a blistering training camp by all accounts. Savion Williams, who was back, is now unback. So the receiver room from last year looks as follows. Christian Watson, physically unable to perform. They have a list for it even. Dontavian Wicks has been hurt now for some time. Jaden Reed, new injury, sprained foot. We don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know if he's going to play week 1. He's hopeful. Romeo Doubs, now hurt. Savion Williams, in and out of the lineup, also a rookie. So that leaves Matthew Golden, a rookie, a first-round rookie who's been one of the most impressive players in camp, but a rookie. Malik Heath, who I think we saw in Philadelphia, has his limitations as a frontline player for you. Really nice 5th or 6th receiver. Really not so nice 2nd receiver. That's all due respect to him. Carved himself out a wonderful niche in the NFL. I think he's going to have a long career. I think he could do more for other teams if he was a 3rd or a 4th receiver. That, like, Bo Melton might be back playing receiver tomorrow. Today. At joint practices, he might be playing receiver. That might be the situation that the Packers find themselves in. Now, we don't know the severity with Romeo Doubs at this point, but here's what I'll say. And this goes for Lucas Van Ness and Xavier McKinney, who's also not practicing. And now I didn't even mention Jordan Love. We will get to Love in a second. That is seemingly much ado about nothing, but I still think there's some things, interesting things there to talk about. This team is built to deal. They are not a top-heavy roster. If you're, say, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you happen to be losing Tristan Wirfs, and then you're already Chris Godwin TBD to start the season. If Mike Evans goes down, your passing offense is Emeka Egbuka and a hope and a prayer. Now the Packers, they've lost 3 receivers, and I look at their offense and I go, they'll be fine. They'll be fine because they have Jordan Love, we think. They'll be fine because they have Matt LaFleur. They'll be fine because they have Josh Jacobs. They'll be fine because they have a good offensive line. They'll be fine because they've done this before. We've seen them adapt and be malleable in these instances without all of those receivers that I just mentioned. Well, it was Wicks, Heath, and Melton in the playoff game against Philly in the second half, and they had that game tight in the second half. They gave that team everything they could handle. So, yes, you want to open with the Lions. You want to be healthy. You want to have Jaden Reed for that game. You want to have Lucas Van Ness for that game. But the Packers didn't get much from Lucas Van Ness last year anyway, and they were a top 10 defense. They didn't have Nate Hobbs last year, and they were a top 10 defense. And if you want to add the Xavier McKinney piece, okay, that's tough. But Evan Williams is a really solid player, and the player who's going to replace Xavier McKinney is the guy who was the day 1 no doubt starter as a rookie last year before he had to change positions because of the injuries in the cornerback room. They've already weathered this. Now, they haven't weathered losing Xavier McKinney, who, as I've mentioned and written about and given a lot of oxygen to, he was the reason that defense was able to get away with a lot of the corner play that it was getting last year with the sub superstar level players that they have. We've never seen a defense with Javon Bullard and Evan Williams as your two guys, though I think that's a pairing that fits. They have different skill sets. They're both versatile players. I think that could work. Do you want the one game for that where that's the case, like to be the Detroit Lions in week 1 in a game that you really kind of have to win? I don't know about that. But again, this is a team that over the course of the last 2 years, like, let's not forget in 2023, Christian Watson dealt with injury. Dontavian Wicks dealt with injury. Jaden Reed dealt with injury. Aaron Jones was hurt most of that season. You lose David Bakhtiari. You're platooning Yash Nyman and Rasheed Walker. This is another one of those reasons. Like when I hear, oh, Jordan Love, that offensive line, like some of the reasons to ding Jordan Love's production. Oh, the offensive line he played behind. Well, 2023, that offensive line was not anything to write home about. They were platooning the left tackles until the second half of the season when they were starting a 7th round pick at left tackle, who it turns out is a pretty solid player. Then they were platooning the right guard because the right guard was hurt, and we know the center wasn't any good. So like the whole premise, and then their right tackle, who it turns out is a good player, was a first-time starter. They've been able to put this all together before, to just figure it out. I know not everyone plays golf, but they've been able to ham and egg it, which in golf means, if you and your partner are able to ham and egg it, it's okay. One guy has a good hole while the other one has a bad hole, and if you're playing best ball, I've just lost half of you. I just know it. I'm trying to help. I swear. Can they beat the Lions down a bunch of guys? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know how much the coaching change is going to affect this Lions team. I think a lot. And so, do I trust Jeff Hafley? Yes. Yes, implicitly. Do I trust Matt LaFleur? Yes. Especially to figure it out. Like, think back, early Matt LaFleur era, 2019. No Devontae Adams. They just, figured it out. And then went on a heater. So, that kind of stuff. We've seen them do it. And I trust Matt LaFleur to handle it. I trust Jordan Love to figure it out, to handle it. And you still have Josh Jacobs. You still have Tucker Kraft. Now, Luke Musgrave got a little banged up. I think Luke Musgrave is one of the more underrated players heading into this season because they've been playing a lot of 12 personnel in the preseason and in practice. They've been starting team drill regularly with 12, with 2 tight ends on the field. And Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft didn't get a target in the preseason. It was Luke Musgrave running a seam ball against cover 2. I think they still think pretty highly of Luke Musgrave. He can do things vertically. I'll play yesterday. Corner out from Malik Willis to Luke Musgrave. That's not really a Tucker Kraft route. That's not really a Tucker Kraft thing. His ability to win vertically. That's why I've compared Luke Musgrave in role, not in quality, but in role to Mark Andrews early in his career when he was running those deep over routes and corner routes, and he was winning vertically. Not, a speedster prime Jimmy Graham kind of stuff, or, Aaron Hernandez, the football player. Although Luke Musgrave does have that sort of speed. They have the pieces. They are built to withstand this. If they lose Lucas Van Ness, they have Kingsley Enagbare. They have Barron Sorrell, who's really coming on here. They have the ace up their sleeve, which is Edgerrin Cooper. Just blitz that guy more. Just send him more. Don't just simulate the pressure, send the pressure. They have these cards to play. And so, if they're banged up, I don't think all of these players will miss time, but there's a good chance they're going to go into week 1 and not have all their guys. That's just football. Most teams are going to go into week 1 going, hey, I really wish this guy were more healthy. I really wish this guy were here. I really wish this. That's just the game. It's about the teams that can adapt. And I think the Packers are one of the most adaptive teams in the NFL. They have proven that in the Matt LaFleur era. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be lingering effects if someone like Jordan Love comes back by week 1, and that's the expectation. But the changes that you need to make to this offense were already happening. I'll tell you what I mean next. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. You can get the Packers going off. 22-1 last time I checked. If you want to pick them to win the Super Bowl. Now you're going to lay juice if you want to get them to make the playoffs, but you could put them together. You could put them together with like the Eagles and the 49ers. And all of a sudden, now you've got some odds. Now you've got some odds. Now you can make some money. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. There was a freak out after we found out Jordan Love was going to have thumb surgery. Lost in all of that, of course, was that it sounds like Xavier McKinney is going to be ready for week 1. Xavier McKinney does not really need to do anything in the preseason. And in fact, I like the idea that they're going to get Javon Bullard some reps here at safety, because it is insurance. But let's talk Jordan Love. Immediately, I saw and heard folks suggest, well, the under center stuff is just going to go by the wayside now because of the thumb. Even though it's his non-throwing hand, you still need to have your hands together in there to take the snap under center. The thumbs take the brunt of the force. And so that can be problematic. Guys with thumb injuries on either throwing hand tend not to like to play under center. Here's the thing, though. The under center play action game was already being not phased out, but phased back in Green Bay. And the differences weren't that big. Like in the reality, in 2023, Jordan Love used play action on 26.6% of his dropbacks. That was 5th most in the NFL. In 2024, it was 24.4% of his dropbacks. So we're talking about, like, over the course of the season, not very many differences at all. Like the difference between 1 out of every a little less than 4 and 1 out of every a little more than 4 passes. Like these are small differences over the course of a season. And so that did, though, change his ranking. I wrote about this today for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. 15th in the league, 15th. And that's because most of the league uses play action between like 28 and 20%, which is that is a less trivial difference, but most teams are right around a quarter. Maybe a little more than a quarter of the time, a little less than a quarter of a time, but like if you pick that quarter middle point, most of the league is within 5 percentage points of a quarter of the time they use play action. This is not something anyone does most of the time, though. I would like to see someone try. Someone have like 60% of their pass attempts be play action passes. Like if Malik Willis had to start for a month, I would consider it. But Matt LaFleur explained he didn't like tight ends having to block edge rushers, because if you're going to make a pass look like a run, then you have to use run blocking schemes in pass protection. And that can mean, like Tucker Kraft, there's that video that got passed around. He hooks and seals a defensive end in the run game. Well, he's got to pass protect against that guy in a play action pass. Now, there are ways to mitigate that, but that's why Matt LaFleur is saying, hey, look, some of that traditional play action stuff we're not doing. It's also, you could say, okay, last year they played in the shotgun more because of Jordan Love's leg and groin and, whatever else happened. Knee, groin. Well, that also was not that different. The Packers, 85% of their passes last year with Jordan Love were from the shotgun. In 2023, you know what that number was? 81.5%. So the vast majority, 4 out of every 5 throws in 2023 were from the shotgun, and now a little more than 4 out of every 5 are from the shotgun. Like it's not a trivial difference, but it's also not a big difference. This is a team that is a primarily shotgun pass team because most teams are primarily and vastly primarily shotgun teams. The difference last year was just that Jordan Love was much better at it. Jordan Love was 5th in the league last year in yards per attempt from the shotgun. He was 18th, in 2023. He averaged 7.7 yards per attempt last year from the gun. It was 6.8. So he went from a below average shotgun passer to an above average shotgun passer with a bum leg. 2 different kinds of bum legs. But wait, there's more. Josh Jacobs ran out of the shotgun. You don't want to be so predictable, right? By formation. Josh Jacobs ran out of the shotgun on 64% of his attempts. So you can't just play if they're there was a time, there have been offenses. The Bengals were like this. When they got under center, they were going to run because Joe Burrow does not like running under center play action. And when they were in the gun, they were probably going to pass. Now, most teams, you're going to see a split where more often than not, you're going to throw from the gun because most of your throwing is from the gun. But 64% of Josh Jacobs' runs last year were from the shotgun. 64%. That is a significant difference from what it was in 2023. Aaron Jones ran out of the gun only 53% of the time. Just a little more than half. A little more than half of his runs were out of the gun. A.J. Dillon, similar, 56%. So a significantly bigger number of Josh Jacobs' runs are coming from the shotgun, and he was good at them. Among league leaders in runs, in rushing yards from shotgun. So this offense was just already playing in a way that adapts to whatever malady Jordan Love is dealing with. Playing from the shotgun allows you to do that. Some teams have done a poor job of adapting their run games to play from the gun. It was actually, speaking of the Bengals, a big deal last year when the Bengals were really able to find something with some of their shotgun runs. And you can, if you're the Packers, you may not call it. Like Matt LaFleur got a little miffed about calling it play action when it's like, well, we didn't pull a guard. We're not really simulating a run action if you're just giving a token run fake. Well, there is a difference between a token run fake, from the shotgun, where you just sort of, and then where you give a harder run fake. We might hold the ball in a running back's belly for half a second. And then there's what we consider hard play action. Under center, turn your back to the defense and set up and throw. The way defenses are moving now, the post-snap movement, this is one of the things that every defense is trying to do, the pre- and post-snap movement. Well, you can't read the defense. If you get under center and you see that defense in an alignment and you think you've got it read, you think you know the coverage, you think you know the safety rotation or not, then you turn your back. And those guys aren't where you thought they were going to be. That is adding time to your process. It's why Aaron Rodgers didn't like to do it. It's why Joe Burrow doesn't like to do it. Peyton Manning didn't like to do it. You can be an awesome QB and not like to do it. So this is value neutral here. I don't think it really changes that much. And I don't think the Packers offense is necessarily worse for it. We had that great conversation yesterday with Mike Sando about what is the optimal offense for Jordan Love. I think the optimal offense for Jordan Love is a shotgun-based offense because he is a very smart quarterback. And the Packers, a heavy RPO team last year, So you're making some decisions pre-snap. They added some post-snap RPO stuff. They ran. It was actually not an RPO. Matt LaFleur corrected the question asker in the press conference and said that was actually a backside slant check with me, an old school, like kind of Brett Favre, where it's not really even in the read of the play. It's just sort of like if you see a look that you like, and he hit Romeo Doubs on it. Those are in the Packers offense. You're running that from the gun. They're a good RPO team. They were a top 5 offense last year, running among the most RPOs in the league, depending on who's counting the most. So this is not really going to change much as long as he's back and 85-90% healthy with that wrist or with the thumb, and it doesn't, affect his decision making that much. If he can just play with it, the offense is built to be what the offense is built to be. Now, there is an opportunity here for Savion Williams if he can get healthy. I want to talk about the forgotten rookie receiver next on Locked On Packers. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. Me and Locked On Packers are playing Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Gearing up here, almost time for drafts. Got to have my data, my rankings, my tiers. I got to have it all ready to go. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play Yahoo Fantasy, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, I get it. You can still play head-to-head in private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily MLB locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Savion Williams. Everyone's excited about Matthew Golden. And rightfully so, right? But the single player I was most excited to see in preseason was not Matthew Golden. I kind of felt like I knew at that point what I was getting with Matthew Golden. I wanted to see Savion Williams, and I wanted to see Savion against second and third stringers because I wanted to see that athleticism pop. Because I know against, big time college football competition, it did, but that's different than the NFL. And it hasn't been Savion Williams' gadget hour. It's not like, they did not bring, I thought, when they drafted him, it was to alleviate the burden on Jaden Reed. Fewer jets, those halfback, split gun, 11 personnel, but really it's lined up like it's 21. I thought the Savion Williams pick was specifically to alleviate that burden from Jaden Reed, who's a smaller receiver. Savion Williams is 6'4", 220 plus. Jaden Reed, 5'10" and change, 195 on a good day. That does not seem to be the case. And so that's all the more reason for him to have this opportunity. Now, it stinks that you're not going to get it with Jordan Love. And that is the big problem here with Jordan Love being out, is opportunities to build chemistry with Matthew Golden and Savion Williams are out the door now. That's going to have to be done on the fly during the season. And that's just significantly harder to do. But if Williams can get back, and we don't know exactly what's going on with the injury there, but if he can get back, even working with Malik Willis, it's NFL timing. It's Packers level detail. Do I know on every play what's going to be expected to me? of me how I need to run this route, how I need to make sure that if the timing of the original play is not there, this is how I need to go into second reaction mode. This is when I can expect the ball. NFL timing is different than collegiate timing in terms of the speed of every play. Running, NFL routes with urgency is different than running collegiate routes with urgency. NFL corners are different than collegiate corners. Getting those opportunities in joint practices, in preseason games. And with Wicks hurt and Dobbs hurt and Reed hurt, this is your opportunity. This is your chance to say, hey, look, this is what I can do. I can be an actual receiver and you can scheme some up for me. And I can do some of the gadget stuff. I know you want to do the jet sweep stuff with Matthew Golden. I expect they're going to do that with Matthew Golden. But you want to run an RPO tunnel screen? Sav's your guy. You want to go play action into a deep over concept? He could be your guy. But that's a bigger question. You know what the other thing looks like. You know what that scheme touch looks like. That little Jaden Reed orbit motion into, is it a give spinner? Is it a receiver screen? Williams threw a couple passes at TCU off stuff like that. He can do that. They know presumably they know he can do that. What he's got to prove is that he can do everything else, and he has that opportunity now to do it with the ones, provided he can get healthy. Now, I don't know Romeo Dobbs. We could go out, today and find out everything's fine. But Dontavian Wicks still hurt, Jaden Reed, and Jaden Reed is he's in a boot. He's not going to come back tomorrow. And we have no indication that Dontavian Wicks is getting closer. Williams was dealing with an injury, and he came back, and now he's hurt again. What you can't have happen is what happened to Marshawn Lloyd last year. Is it's injury after injury, and then you end up just having a lost rookie season because you get buried. And that could happen. Matthew Golden, that could have happened anyway. That circumstance would have buried him. But that's a different thing. Then you're able to practice, you're able to learn, you're able to get those reps. There's still time on task. If you're hurt, if you're on IR, you don't have that. Mental reps, just not the same. Now, the good news for the Packers is Marshawn Lloyd is back. He was hurt earlier again, but is back now, and it seems like is doing fun stuff. And so this goes back to our original point. This team is built to have a lot of people who can contribute in meaningful ways and not be top heavy, so that if there are injuries, and I don't think this was intentional, but it's just where they are now, they have the chance to keep on keeping on. And Marshawn Lloyd is a reason for that, because he can be dynamic. He can take a 2-yard blocked run and turn it into 20. He can take a screen pass and turn it into a 60-yard touchdown and make 3 guys miss. That's what Samuel Williams can do too. And I just want to see it. I want to see it. I hope we get a chance to see it. All right, back tomorrow as we move through joint practice week. Indianapolis Colts. I mentioned Matt LaFleur said the starters were not going to play in this game anyway. I expect Jordan Love's preseason is done. We'll see what happens here. I guess that would mean joint practice is probably also out. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see if we can get some more information, and when we can get that, be sure to be tuned in here. We'll have the latest also at the Leap. We'll have the latest. I wrote about some of the potential changes today for Locked On Packers, today for the Leap. So go check that out. Go subscribe to this show wherever you get podcasts. Follow me on social media wherever you are on social media. Subscribe on YouTube so you can watch this show and you can stay Locked On Packers.